YouTube, today I'm going to tell you the tragic story of Holly Jones. This story does talk about heinous acts that happened to this beautiful, wonderful 10-year-old back in 2003. There may be some cursing, there may be some profanity, but just note it is very well placed and needed when describing such a sick individual in Michael Joseph Briere. Now, he was a plump 36-year-old computer software developer. He also had a receding hairline and a rabbity twitch to his facial features. He did plead guilty to the first-degree murder of Holly Jones. This was after he was arrested by Toronto homicide detectives who had found Holly's DNA in his house and on his fingernails. Now, there is a videotape of Michael's interrogation where he's sitting there with a coat around him because he's a muppet, and he makes a confession eventually. The police do try and break him down slowly. He's stuttering, he's nervous, he's pensive, and eventually he confesses. He told the police that engaging in intercourse with young girls was a yearning. He said this was a fantasy that had been with him seemed like forever. It was like a hobby or a sport that he wanted to engage in, he wanted to fulfill. He said this need, this yearning, had always been part of his life. And I think to myself, what kind of sick individual is this? We all have urges. You have urges, I have urges, right? And obviously not anything like this sick shit, but we all have sexual desires, we all have fantasies, we all have, hormones and serotonin and pheromones and pain and pleasure chemicals and all that kind of stuff. But who in the blue fuck of true red crime feels these kind of urges? Michael, when he spoke to police, that he said that on one summer evening in May 2003, he felt this sudden urge that he just wanted to engage in intercourse with a young girl. He was viewing child porn on his computer and he got this urge, and what he was trying to tell the police is this was the gateway. He started watching porn, and then certain porn types weren't enough for him, right? So he looked at one category, he got off on it, but then he got over it, and he looked at another category, he got off and he got over it. So essentially this guy was so fucked up, he was so needy sexually, that he went to every single library or chapter or keyword in whatever porn site he was using, and it wasn't enough and he needed more, so he turned to child pornography. So on May the 13th, he's like, okay, fuck this. He walks out the front door and he's desperate to find a child. He said that he got excited and he just thought to himself, I'm going to go out and I'm going to find anyone and I don't care. Now, this all took place downtown Toronto, and Holly lived just a few steps away from him. So he saw the sunny 10-year-old. He walked towards her. He checked, he looked around to see if the streets were empty. He grabbed her by the neck. He told the police that she didn't scream. He grabbed her by the neck and he dragged her to his home, and he was surprised that there wasn't much resistance. Once he got in the house, he locked the doors, he took her into the bedroom, he undressed her, and he bruised her sexual organs, and he tried to engage in intercourse with her, but at first he was unsuccessful. It was reported after by the doctors that he tore her anal area, and when the police finally went to his apartment, when they eventually found that he committed this crime, they went through his computers and his PC, they found a whole host of child pornography images. Now, before I continue and give you more details of this story, I'm trying to put myself in that scenario, right? Just imagine he's in his house. So he grabs her, he takes her back in. He's now in his house, right? And obviously this desire he has, this sick fuck, or whatever you want to call it, this need that he has gotten to the point where he's committed now, he's all in, right? But life is all about decision making, and every decision you make has an effect on your life. And at this moment, even though he done fucked up already, he could have stopped. He could have decided no, but he still went through with it. And I think of Holly, and I think of Holly's parents and Holly's sister or family, or whatever siblings and an extended family. Holly was around 10 years old at the time. Now, I have I have a son. I'm sure you have kids watching this. The attachment you have to your children, there's not enough words in the English language to describe it. So if I found out my son has gone missing, my heart would drop, right? If I found out that, look, my favorite soccer team lost the game, 2 minutes later, I wouldn't give a shit. But if something happened to my son, oh, the whole world is coming down, such as the love and affection and care and pain you would have knowing your child is in pain. So I think about that, and I think about Holly in that room. And this is where I bring it back to Michael, right? You're an adult. You sick motherfucker. From what I know, Michael didn't have any kids, but you're an adult. You have every opportunity to stop. Holly is helpless. What about her parents? What about her family? What about what this would do to her, let alone what you did to her? Now, once he committed his act of assault, he took her life by strangling her. So eventually, Holly's parents report her missing. They then go and tell the police, and they conduct a long search in the Toronto area. Now, I used to live in Toronto. The Torontonians are the nicest people in the world. I never had a problem there. So I can only imagine what this did to the community. Then, Michael, as if this wasn't sick enough, he decided, oh, I'm going to dismember her body. So he got a saw, he cut her body up, and he threw it in the fridge. Then he made 2 trips, one to dispose of her clothes, and then to dispose of her body parts. And according to the police, Staff Inspector Smollett, he said he had never seen a crime before where there was a direct A to B link between child pornography and this crime. Now, between May the 13th, where this took place, and June, it was around a 6-week period where he got arrested. In that time, he went to work, no problem, acting as if nothing had happened. He went about his normal activities. In fact, the day the police arrested him, he was actually in KFC with his girlfriend. Bruv, don't ever disrespect fried chicken like that again, you prick. And when the police executed a search warrant of his apartment, when they go in, they see an adult magazine on top of the TV, and it seemed to the police that Michael was still trying to get rid of evidence. As I said, he made separate trips, and he tried to dump the child's body in the Toronto waterfront. He also tried to dispose of blood-stained articles like her clothes or anything that she had on her. In fact, the day they arrested him, he was still wearing the same shoes he wore the day of the abduction. There was also a time where he's carrying her torso in a bag and he's on the subway, and apparently there was a man sitting opposite him, and the man was looking at him, but then the man's face changed because when he looked at Michael's bag, he could see blood dripping, and then Michael just dropped the bag. And despite Michael's effort to clean his apartment, forensics found Holly's blood in 5 separate locations. They found it on the sofa, the fridge, the mattress, the floor tiles, and in the kitchen. And the kitchen is where he dismembered Holly. And given Michael's confession, he was sentenced to life in prison. Now, for me, when I read this crime, my heart is broken because I can't stop thinking about Holly in that moment. When I think about it, there's just a loud scream in my mind where there obviously must have been a lot of resistance in the house. If there wasn't in the street, as a human being, your survival instinct kicks in. Even if, like, my son is 2 years old, right? Like, even though he can't talk fully, you can see him, his survival instinct is there. You see it many times when he's trying to get up after I change his diaper. You see kids struggle, right? This is all normal. So her being 10 years old, where her brain is a lot more developed, her body is more developed, this certainly would have been a fight. And even then, this sick, twisted, lonely, dirty bastard Michael did not have the conscience to think no. It's like each time you read about these crimes, it's as if the precedent or the bar is set so low that, like, even though it's fucked up that he thought about her in this way in the first place, and even though it's messed up he took her in the first place, we could perhaps in some sick twisted way have some kind of reprieve if he decided in the middle, okay, no, this is wrong, right? Even though it's all of it wrong, but because this is so bad in the end, stopping in the middle, we'd be like, okay, at least he didn't take her life. But this idiot decided that's what he wanted. The fantasy was too strong for him. And I genuinely feel for Holly's parents. This was so long ago. This isn't something they're ever going to get over. Maybe it's something they've gotten used to. But Michael, I hope you never come out of jail ever again. Why don't you guys comment? Tell me what you think.